Are you ready to embrace aging with vitality and purpose? Welcome to Essential Wellness, the podcast dedicated to empowering women to live their best lives at any and every age. Join us as we explore the secrets to living and aging well with insightful conversations on health, wellness, and finding meaning, purpose, and passion in midlife and beyond. We'll delve into topics like stress management, finding balance, the power of movement, cultivating resilience, and so much more. Get ready to be inspired by transformative stories, expert advice, and practical tips you can implement right away. I'm your host, Dr. Mikel Segal. Let's dive in. Okay, welcome everyone. Glad you all are here with me today, and I have a very special guest. So please welcome Carrie Bradley. So Carrie, please tell everyone a little bit about yourself, who you are, and whatever else you want to share.
Hello. What do I share? I have a hard time sometimes encapsulating all my varied work experiences, as I started out getting my degree in journalism, and then I guess I could say I moved into the health field. I became a massage therapist and then did all sorts of things from teaching indoor cycling, and then became a health coach and running coach. And I think maybe the thing that might interest your listeners the most is my recent health journey and being a healthy, middle-aged woman and diagnosed with colorectal cancer when I was 44. And just the last year, I've been journeying through overcoming that. And I think one of the myths I want to bust is that only sick people get cancer or get chronic diseases. I was one of the healthiest people I knew, and everybody who found out said, "You're the healthiest person I know. How could this happen to you?" We could talk about all different aspects of physical health, emotional health, and the importance of being your own advocate. I had to really push to get the diagnosis, as I knew things were not going well. And so, yeah, just dig in wherever you want to.
Thank you for being so open, just to start with that, and sharing and being willing to share about your journey. So I appreciate that. And I'm sure everyone here appreciates that as well. What do you think has been the biggest lesson that you learned in the journey so far?
I think the biggest gift that I've gotten from the journey of going through cancer is learning to accept myself and care for myself. It was a big wake-up call for me when after I was diagnosed, I went into a bookstore, and I probably wouldn't have picked up this book otherwise, but Gabor, Maté, it just caught my eye, and the book is called When the Body Says No, The Cost of Hidden Stress. And I was just flipping through it today, and I found this quote: "The inability to process and express feelings effectively and the tendency to serve the needs of others before even considering one's own are common patterns in people who develop chronic illness." And that is consistent with my life. I tend to be a people pleaser and put other people first, and tend to think of that as a good thing. I'm helping other people, but when you do it at the expense of your own health and your own needs, that can be really detrimental to your health. So through having to be disabled, like not being able to do certain things because I was in cancer treatment, and having to say no, and having to just focus entirely on caring for myself and making sure that my health needs were met, that just gave me a new sense of freedom and liberation, that if I don't take care of myself, that it's nobody else's job to do that. It's not my doctor's job. It's not my family's job. I have to care for myself. And that's not just like eating well and exercising. It's attending to my emotional needs and expressing my emotions, and even giving myself permission to get a massage or spend money on counseling, and all the varied aspects of what it means to be a healthy person.
So it sounds like you've created a few more boundaries for yourself, and you've also begun to appreciate or just give yourself permission to care for yourself in a way that feels more aligned with what you need. So how has your life changed, like day-to-day life changed now versus a year ago?
One thing that's different is I've always just pushed myself really hard, especially as far as exercise. I would always be into really intense forms of exercise, running, biking, swimming. And I am more likely to just go for a walk now and listen to my body and think, so if I've got this niggle in my hip, oh, I need to stretch today and just do yoga. I'm not going to try and push past it. And as far as work, I've scaled back quite a bit. And I guess a year ago today, I hadn't even been diagnosed. So it's pretty crazy that so much can happen so soon, so quickly. How else is my life different?
Do you find yourself thinking about things in a different way?
I used to find it interesting to think about like end of life and what do I want my legacy to be and what would I do if I knew I had a year to live or whatever. But now, having experienced the possibility of my life being cut short, I think I live with that perspective closer in mind. Another book I haven't read, but I know the concept of Bronnie Ware's 5 Regrets of the Dying. And one of them is that people wish that they hadn't lived their life on other people's terms. And I just want to live my life doing what lights me up, what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to write a book, so I'm finally giving myself the permission to take the time to do that and pursue that. And even though it may not make a lot of sense, it's not earning me a paycheck right now, but it's important to me. So I don't want to be on my deathbed wishing that I had done that. And yeah, I think I'm more intentional about just being authentically me and not doing something just because it's something I feel like I should do.
Yeah, I guess that's a good reminder. Just to give the listeners a background, you and I met in an online business coaching program just at the tail end of COVID. I met you back then. And so now, just from the lens of a coach, I know you have a lot to share. How do you think you'll take what you've experienced over the past year and moving forward when you are helping others?
Good question. Moving forward, I'm focusing my coaching on living courageously. And at first, it might not appear that the connection with health coaching, but it takes a lot of courage to step into the self-worth, to believe that you matter enough to focus on your health and then to be able to stand up to whatever forces in the world that are trying to move against you being the healthiest version of yourself. Women particularly have a hard time making themselves a priority. And I think women in midlife particularly are realizing how important it is. They've spent their early lives taking care of kids and building a career, and maybe they've come to a point where they're like, this is not what I expected. It's not what I have planned. And so it takes a lot of courage to make any sort of change. And I'd like to help women tap into that courage and that worth.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
I know right now you're running a Plucky challenge that you just share what that's about.
So it's 100 days. And Plucky means determined courage in the face of difficulties. And I started the challenge because I had done a 100-day movement challenge, and I was posting about the movement I was doing every day. And the comments that I would get from people are just about how you're always so into fitness and you're always moving. And I was like, that's just part of my life. It's just that aspect of it that I chose to post about. And so I became known as somebody who does this, but when I realized that I wanted to be known for being courageous. And that's why I started the podcast I have, Plucky Not Perfect, is that. And the idea behind that is so many of us don't start the thing that we really want to do because it's scary, but you just have to take the smallest step. It's not like you get to the top of a mountain in one leap, step by step, and little by little becomes a lot. And so I don't consider myself like this heroic person, but I can do consistency. I can do a little bit every day. And when you look back, you realize how great of strides that's made. So yeah, the Plucky challenge is just to do something that scares you a little bit every day. And so mine for today is talking on a podcast because I'm more comfortable asking the questions than answering them. Yeah, I just wanted to inspire myself and others just to do something just a little bit outside of your comfort zone. You don't have to do anything crazy, but
I definitely find your post inspiring. So
thank you.
So what is something that you want to share with the listeners about anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to talk about?
I guess as I was talking earlier about self-care and emotions and going to therapy, I think the best therapy that I have is my own journal. I'm a big advocate for journaling and processing emotions that way. And so I guess I would share that it's worth the time it takes to write down a few sentences. I have a gratitude practice for the longest time, I would write just something really generic in my journal that I was grateful for. But I started this practice of being grateful for 5 different things. Something I'm grateful for about myself, something I'm grateful for about someone else, something I'm grateful for that's good in my life. That's the easy part. And actually, I got this from James Wedmore, a common mentor that we have. The next step is harder, being grateful for something that is challenging, that's hard. And if you think about it, all the times in your life that you've grown or you've become a better person is probably because of a hard time that you went through, and it's never fun at the time. So just being aware of being grateful for the hard times. I had been doing that before my diagnosis, and I think when it happened, I just had such a inexplicable sense of peace that this is not what I would have wanted, and I don't like it, but I know that it's going to make me a better person and that I'm going to be grateful for this experience. So that's the 4th, being grateful for something hard. And then the 5th one is grateful for an opportunity. So just what opportunity is going to come from this hard thing, or what are you looking forward to? So every day I write those 5 things, and it's a great practice.
Yeah, thank you for that. That sounds like something that'd be very useful for people to have those journal prompts and reflect on those 5 things. Yeah. Well, you shared a lot. Are there any other practices that you feel made a big difference for you?
I continue to stay active even within the realms of what was healthy and safe during my cancer treatment. So when I was in radiation, I couldn't keep swimming because I had some skin sores, but just even for my mental health, just getting outside and going for a walk and then staying active. And I trained for a 100-kilometer bike ride to raise money for cancer research. And I wasn't even sure that I would be able to complete the ride, but that just brought a real sense of camaraderie and accomplishment, just getting other people on board to raise money and get behind me in this goal. And so even now, as I'm awaiting another surgery to remove the ostomy bag and get me put back together. But I think a lot of people might be tempted to just wait and not be exercising or moving their body, but just consider it prehab, that anything I'm doing now is just going to make me stronger for as I'm recovering from that surgery. I don't know if any of your listeners are going to be in my particular situation, but I think it's just human nature to think, oh, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll start when things slow down, and you don't have to do anything intense. And in fact, for my workouts, the other trick I have is I get myself to start by just starting in my pajamas. And so I don't feel like working out, but I just start doing something, lifting some weights, a few dumbbells while I'm in my pajamas. And then after I've been moving for a few minutes, then I start to feel, I can put a sports bra on. I could do something a little bit more vigorous. And so just start.
I do that sometimes as well. I'll just start stretching and I find the same thing exactly. But yeah, it just sounds like keeping moving and just starting with whatever it is that you can do. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your words and inspiring all of us with your story.
You're very welcome.
People want to hear more about you. How can they find you?
My podcast, as I mentioned, is called Plucky Not Perfect. And I took a little break between season 1 and season 2, but we'll be getting going again this spring. And I hang out on Instagram at Carrie Bradley. I have a website, pluckynotperfect.com. But yeah, come say hi on Instagram.
Yeah. I'm sure anyone who finds you will, as I said, find inspiration and more.
Thank you.
Any last words? I know I've been asking you, but is there any last words you want to say before we sign off?
I don't think that courage is inherent. It's not something that somebody's born with. And so, yeah, it's just something that you can build little by little, just like building muscle.
Anyone can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that message. All right. Thanks again. And I really appreciate you coming and sharing your story.
My pleasure. Thank you.